Soccer 605, we're here with Mark Glissendorf, who is the first vice president.
I think it's first.
It's first vice president for competitive soccer for South Dakota Soccer Association, and you also chair the competitive committee, correct?
That's right.
Well, and Mark, we're getting together today. I had planned to get together in the past already, but I did an article on Soccer 605, an opinion editorial here a while back called The Game for All Kids, regarding a situation that happened with a protest about an ineligible player during the state cup, and you had some comments on that and gave us a good opportunity to get together to discuss that.
Yeah. Appreciate the opportunity, Carol. I've been on the board since the 1st of February, so I haven't been on the board very long.
Trial by fire.
That's right. That's the way I like it. Deep end of the pool. Just jump in. So I glanced at your opinion piece. And the visual at the end of it was the referee holding up the yellow card. So you gave me a yellow card.
Gave me a yellow card on that.
You yellow carded me. It's my first one. So so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it and see if maybe you'll pull the yellow card down by the time we're done talking.
All right. Well, let's give our viewers a little bit of background. The protest happened during the state cup. It was after state cup. State cup games wrapped up about 2 o'clock on Sunday. Sometime late Monday afternoon, the state office received a notification of intent to file a protest about an ineligible player. And that's what prompted my opinion piece, The Game for All Kids. And I said basically that you consider the protest when the competition rules for the state cup clearly stated that any protest must be filed within 1 hour of the completion of the match. Was that information I received or any of my research incorrect on that, Mark?
The part that's incorrect is that based on the process that I set up with the committee did not consider the protest.
Okay.
I set up a 3-step process. Step 1, and I have the emails and can show them to you, said that in essence, step 1, I told the committee we need to see if there's cause for us to consider this and if we have jurisdiction.
Okay.
And when the protest came in, and then as you described, we had some dialogue in the committee and some input from President Jensen through Region 2. The committee voted unanimously that we don't have jurisdiction, and we didn't consider the protest.
Okay. And you considered it not as a state cup issue, but as a soccer registration issue, correct?
Right. If it were a state cup issue, that would have been very easy.
Yeah.
It would have. I would have simply told the person who filed the protest, the rules are clear, as you stated. It happened. The protests have to come in within 1 hour, and it clearly was after that. And the reason I didn't ask the state cup event committee to help me out was, again, because when the protest was filed, it wasn't in regards to the event itself. I know you had a question in the op-ed piece about the makeup of the state cup event committee.
Yes.
And in the same state cup rules where you found the 1 hour protest piece, on page 1, section 2, it lines out exactly who the state competitive committee or the state cup committee is, and it is myself as the chair, all the other members of the competitive committee, the referee assigner, the local organizing chair, and one at-large member nominated by me. And I had nominated President Jensen because with me only having 4 months on the committee and he having several decades of experience, I thought he would be a good resource if something did come up during the tournament. And I had in my binder that was with me the whole weekend, I had everybody's cell phone numbers just in case, hoping that nothing would come up. And to that end, I was out there the whole weekend, as were you, for the most part. And it was raining, and that was not ideal. But other than that, that we were all wearing parkas. Other than that, nobody approached me about anything that they didn't feel good about. So I was pleased with the way everybody came together to run the event.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of any protests, anything going on during it. And one of the things we did talk about during the state cup was if you could somehow put into the RFP for that event that better weather must be required. That would be nice.
Absolutely. And And Carol, the reason, you know, if I made an error, I'm happy with the side I erred on. I could have easily, when the protest came in, I could have said, nope, that's it. In my 4 months of experience on the State Soccer Association Board of Directors, I will myself decide that we don't have jurisdiction to do this. I truly don't have the history and qualifications to do that. On my competitive committee, I have the DOCs of the 3 largest soccer clubs in the state. I have the state DOC, and I also included in CCs on the emails, I included President Jensen, and I included Don Swoboda, who is our registrar, who, as you pointed out, if this, and that I didn't know, but that if this would have been something to consider, that she would have been the one to do it. And so I thought, should Mark Glissendorf in his 4 months make this decision of experience, or should I have, since I've got access to a century or so of experience, let's go ahead and take a day or two to get it done right.
Err on the side of communication and discussion.
Right.
That's understandable. Well, I don't know that a yellow card has ever been rescinded by a referee, but
Dang.
but I do appreciate that you went through the process and that you contacted us back about it so that we can have this discussion. I wanted to go a little bit further here. When we talk about the registrar, Don Swoboda, being the person who has guidance or direction over any protests or any questions about eligibility, that's an implied from what I could find from the bylaws and the registration rules. I really couldn't find who would look at it. If it was a competitive player, did the competitive committee look at it? If it's a recreational player? So it sort of seemed to come down to the conflict resolution policy for anything like that, and that kind of is the overall encompassing. And that wasn't used either, but your committee did decide, and ultimately that there was not grounds for continuation.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I did hear, though, that there were at least a couple of members of your 5-member committee that are interested in, or stated that they were interested in reviewing the rules for possible redraft that would address a situation like that. Now, I don't know, I think that would be a direct violation of the U.S. Soccer Federation bylaw 603 regarding interplay, where it clearly prohibits discrimination against a player, a coach, an organization, a team, based upon their membership or affiliation with another organization.
Yeah, I think as you pointed out in your piece, I think there's a number of places where that would run into a dead end.
Yeah.
And even the work that President Jensen did with our parent organization, USU Soccer, and where they have landed on that question. I don't see, I am only the chair of my committee. I don't get to vote unless there's a tie. Right. That isn't something, as a committee chair, as I decide what comes onto our agenda, things need to either come top down. Either President Jensen and or the board would have an issue and they would say, committee, please wrestle with this and bring it back. Or the committee itself would vote, hey, the majority of us want to address this specific issue, and like I did in the protest, I will always listen, and decide if we should consider and take action. But I can't see this one getting past the first step either. I don't think we have jurisdiction to do that. Well,
in some respects, this whole situation gave an opportunity for people to become more aware of the governing laws for soccer in the U.S. As a member of the Soccer Federation, South Dakota Soccer Association and all of its member associations are under that umbrella and those rules. So.
And I would hazard a guess that 99% of the people involved in soccer in South Dakota probably aren't aware of all of those relationships, and I will admit that up until a few months ago I didn't understand it as well as I do today. So that's the advantage of being a lifelong learner, is that you get to keep figuring those kind of things out.
Well, and kids just want to get out there and play, parents want their kids to play, coaches want to coach, nobody wants to worry about anything other than what is an offsides call, what are the fouls and misconduct. So
There you go.
that's understandable, and hopefully people, though, that need to know about it now have a better idea.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
We also published, Mark, an article back at mid-May called South Dakota Soccer Association Player Registration Rules. Is it time for a change? Now, I don't know if you had a chance to read that article.
I have given that a brief glance, yes.
Well, one of the things that we kind of posit out there is that a lot of other states across the country allow players to roster on more than one team. In South Dakota, we've interpreted that, or it has been interpreted as long as I can remember, that players can be on two teams. One is a club team, one is a rec team. And high school, of course, is separate, but during the high school season, they're only on that one roster. When we look at some of the other associations, other state associations, they allow players to be on 2 or 3 club rosters, and some of them let them be on as many rec rosters as they want to. One of the problems, obviously, with being on more than one club roster is when it comes to the National Championship Series, they have to declare only one roster because you cannot be on more than one roster during that event. Have you had any discussions about the possibility of doing that, allowing dual rostering beyond just rec?
It hasn't come up in the committee yet. And again, as I said, if the president or the board or if the committee members themselves want our committee to review that, I'm absolutely open to doing that. In terms of my personal philosophy on that, again, I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always open to changing a position once I know more about it. I would, though, be very careful to consider all of the players that are affected by that kind of movement. It's easy to think about the elite player that is being asked to be on more than one team. On the flip side, the weekend that elite player joins this team X, the 11th player in that team that would have been getting a lot of playing time that weekend, maybe they're riding the bench instead. And so, there's a part of me that says that asking a player and their family to commit to one competitive team for a season and maintain that commitment, I'm not sure that's all bad either. Part of what I think a lot of us parents like about soccer for our kids is that it is a team sport and a team concept. And everybody wants, you've coached little kids, right? What position do they want to play?
They all want to play forward.
I want to be forward. I want to be forward. And, they find out and as they get a little older and get a little more competitive. And at some point, some coach asks a kid that, one of those really athletic kids that would be a very good forward. And he says, you know what, I need you in the middle of my defense. Mm-hmm. And so there's team things that you learn by committing to a team mm-hmm. for a year or two. So if it comes up, it'll be an interesting discussion, and I want to look at both sides of it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned if the 11th kid may be sitting the bench if they come from X and go to Y. Also, the 12th player on the other team will be getting more time. So
that's true.
There's a lot of different things, and you're right. It's probably only going to affect a certain small number of players. But as we see more and more clubs arise across the state, Watertown has a club, Brookings has a club. Yankton has a club, Pierre has a club, and then we also have Dakota Alliance, Rushmore, and South Dakota United, which those 3 clubs tend to travel out of state more often.
Right.
So obviously the opportunity for the player would be the choice to continue to play with their local club, but also maybe to go to some of these out-of-state tournaments without having to be a guest player. So.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues to look at. I just wondered if you'd discussed it at all.
Yeah, we haven't, and part of it is again in my 4 months on the committee, really the state cup tournament and getting that done well has taken most of our energy, but we'll have more time moving forward.